Yo, 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 what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Asks Us, where I, your host, Luke Dick, read and react to comments from r/ask Reddit. Remember, if you are watching or listening on YouTube, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Remember to please, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else you get your podcasts, to leave us a rating and also leave us a review. It helps the show get into those recommended algorithms and spreads the show farther and farther across the globe so that more people can tune in, more people can listen, and we can all enjoy what Reddit and all of our beautiful friends from the internet have to offer. So, I'm super excited to be back here again with y'all this week. We've got a fun episode for today, and I'm really looking forward to it. So, let's just start off with a couple of housekeeping things, my friends. I was given a suggestion on YouTube by my quote-unquote biggest fan. I want to give a huge shout out. And I don't know why I haven't shouted out him before, him or her. I don't know your gender, or maybe you don't have a gender, but I don't know what your gender orientation is. So let's just say they say, and often comment on all my posts on YouTube, and leave reviews and ratings and stuff on platforms. But I want to give a huge shout out to Vortex. So Vortex told me last week that it would be fun to get you guys more involved in the show, to answer the questions, and then I'll read out your responses on my next week's episode. So last week's episode was, what is incorrectly perceived as a sign of intelligence? So I'm going to pose this to you for this episode. If you want to answer this question yourself, and comment that under my YouTube page, on my YouTube channel, under the most latest video, comment what you have to say, I will read out those responses and those replies on the next week's episode. So it'll be kind of like a week late, but you guys will be able to hear your takes on whatever questions we were talking about the week previous on this newest week's episode. So that is, I think I want to give a huge shout out to Vortex, my biggest fan, for offering up that suggestion, because I think it's a great way to get everyone involved. And I just want to quickly mention, I know I've been seeing more and more ratings coming in on Spotify. You guys have no idea how happy and how thankful I am that you all do that for me. That is insane. It takes time out of your life to be able to consciously make that effort to go and give me a rating, and that means you really appreciate the show. And I love doing the show. I love interacting with you guys, and it means a lot to me that you have been rating the show every single week. So that is very important. Those ratings go up all the time, and I want to thank you all so much for doing that. So without further ado, why don't we just hop right into this week's episode? I'm so pumped. I'm so happy. I'm so thankful, and so very much looking forward to doing this week's episode and being back here with y'all. So let's get right into it. This week's episode comes from the main Ask Reddit page. What is a deep, dark rabbit hole to research when bored? Now, I know all of us might not necessarily have the time now, because school's starting up again for everybody, whether you're in high school, university, elementary school, whenever you're listening to this. And if you're a working person, then I guess it's all the time for you. But fall time tends to be a busy time for all of us. So I don't know if you have the time to be going on rabbit holes on Reddit or wherever. But if you do have some spare time and are looking for some rabbit holes, then we are going to give you some rabbit holes to go down and search down. I know the comments I was reading before I started this podcast has already got me interested in going through a bunch of different rabbit holes. So let's do this. First one comes from Monticelli. The saved section of your Reddit user profile. I've saved so much shit and then promptly forgot about it, like I'm just going to do with this thread. Then we have a reply from Underhill. I've been on Reddit so long, it's like an archaeological dig going through all my saved list. Man, Reddit is such an interesting place. Reddit, you can find just the most specific things. There's like subreddits dedicated to different toenails. Like there are subreddits out there for absolutely everything. And it's so funny. There's only a couple posts on some of these subreddits, and they're old as hell. But I think some of the posts might be pinned to the subreddit. But some of the posts just end up being like just really, really interesting. There's a lot of rabbit holes to go down. I noticed that every week I save new ideas from different subreddits and different episode ideas, and I never get through them all. I save at least maybe probably 2-3 questions a week that come up on the main Askreddit page, and then I never end up answering all these questions, and there's so many fun episodes. So I'll have to go back in my archive and maybe one of these or a couple of these weeks go back from months and months ago and answer some questions. I've got one saved from the past like 2-3 years. This podcast is getting old, man. I turned 21 this week, guys. Isn't that crazy? On Thursday, I turned 21. That's nuts, man. This podcast is getting old. I started this thing when I was like, I think I started this podcast when I was 18, I think. So, yeah, I'll be turning 20. This podcast is going to be old as hell, just like me. Next one comes from Slim Joe 14. When I worked at a call center, we often had quiet times, and the internet blocked most things. But unusual wiki articles kept me entertained for quite some time, though. It's full of random and strange things. We have a reply from Sig3net. Yeah, whenever I had to sub as a receptionist she sub as the receptionist while she was having lunch, I'd read crimelibrary.org. I wanted to just see what happens if I look up random wiki or unusual wiki articles. I wonder if there's a page that'll take us to just some random articles here. Maybe I'll come at you guys next episode with a random wiki article, but Wikipedia is so nice. A lot of times Wikipedia, especially if it's about something interesting and something that's been well researched, it actually Wikipedia ends up being fairly accurate. Like, if you're gonna post on Wikipedia and be one of those people who edits Wikipedia pages, like, I'm pretty sure that they are actually quite diligent with making sure that their things get fact checked properly. I have, although, read some Wikipedia pages that do seem a little bit odd and not exactly favorable to maybe the most unbiased reporting or writing. And because a Wikipedia an encyclopedia, and the idea of an encyclopedia is that it's the most like transparent sort of thing. It's supposed to be an objective way of telling or conveying information, but Wikipedia is very interesting. So I'm sure if you guys find some just random Wikipedia articles, you'll end up finding some pretty interesting stuff. Next one comes from Gnostic Psycho. Prion diseases. Every single one is weird and dark. It includes cannibalism and family curses and deers walking on two legs. And industrial farming plus forced cow cannibalism. Whoa. Reply from All Hail Raccoons. 2 fun facts I learned in med school about this. The most common human prion disease is Creutzfeldt-Jakob, and 85% of cases occur spontaneously. There is a widespread mutation in the human population that protects against Kuru, a human prion disease spread by cannibalizing brains. This suggests cannibalism was a common practice at some point in human history. Then we have a reply from Lanix3. What do you mean occur spontaneously? Like just one day you wake up with it without eating or coming into contact with anything? Reply from PM Me Your Pants. Pretty much, your body constantly unfolds and refolds proteins. And something that they are misfolded. And sometimes they are misfolded. Sorry for yawning, guys. Not an issue in the vast majority of time, but it's possible you end up with a misfolded protein that turns out that turns out pathologic and instructs others to also misfold, and bam, you got prions. I don't even know what prions are. Let's check it out. What is a prion disease? Let's see what it's going to give us. Prions are misfolded proteins that have the ability to transmit their misfolded shape onto normal variants of the same protein. They characterize several fatal and transmissible neurodegenerative diseases in humans and many other animals. How does a person get a prion disease? Transmitted through contaminated medical equipment and nervous tissue. Cases where this has happened. What's an example of prion disease? What is CGT? Okay, what is Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease? And symptoms: loss of memory and intellect, changes of personality, loss of balance and coordination, slurred speech, vision problems and blindness, abnormal jerking movements, progressive loss of brain function and mobility. Okay, guys, we don't want prion diseases, all right? This is something we don't want. But yeah, that's weird though. The cannibalism thing. Those things shock me, man. Like, I've never thought ever in my life about like what eating like a human meat would be like. I read this one story one time that this guy was put up this post on Craigslist to get some person to cut off like a part of his butt cheek so that they could fry it up and eat it just to see what it tasted like. I'm like, yo, not only would I never eat a human, but eating myself? Oh, yo, you can count me. Like, I've never thought, yo. When have you ever have you ever gone to a funeral, you know, and you see the dead person in the box in the casket? I've never ever once thought, yo, this shit looks bussin', bro. Yo, when is the part that we can like take the body out and eat it? You know, maybe fry it up, you know, a little bit of sauce, you know what I'm saying? A little bit of fried veggies. Bussin'. Like, what the fuck? Oh my God. I wonder like if there are just people out there who are cannibals, you know? You know, like how some people are like, I don't know. They are, you know, murderers. Like, you know, they sit there and they think about murder and stuff, and they're like, oh, I just can't stop thinking about murder. I wonder how many people that you would come in, like, if you've ever come into contact with any people in your life and they're just, you know, you have a normal conversation there, but they're just sitting there the whole time being like, yo, you look bussin', dog. Oh my God, a little bit of soy sauce, bro, with you. Sheesh. That shit is looking fire. Eating people, man. Give me a break, man. There's no way. Like, I feel like there's very little more uncomfortable feelings than the feeling of thinking about what it would be like to eat someone. Like, I don't even want to think about it. It's like my brain just doesn't even want to go there. So next we have a post from previous T9210. Feral children. Reply from not a werecat. Had to stop reading these accounts because it made me too sad seeing over and over that the rescuers almost always killed the kids' animal families, and the children pretty much never had any quality of life after. Don't know 1675 says, I wonder how long that could go without some outside intervention. Like, how could they become adults and still remain with those animals? We have a reply here from Narfi1. Research in this field is really weird. We have very few unbiased sources. It's not well documented because they love the theme in the, oh my God, I don't know what that is. I forget how this works. I want to say like 400th century or something. I don't know how the Roman numerals work. I kind of know how they work, but I don't really know how they work. Because it was, or maybe that's 1400th century. I don't know. Just use numbers, man. Because it was what they saw in nature versus culture, and a lot of shady experiments were done. Basically, the big question was, were those kids regular kids that got adopted by animals and never learned human ways and became feral, or were they mentally ill/delayed beforehand? There was a big chance that a lot of them were abandoned because they had some kind of cognitive deficiency and were found after weeks, not years, by themselves. That was probably the case for Victor of Avron. When questioned about the hypothesis of Victor Avron, Shattuck said, "One is that the wild boy, though born normal, developed a serious mental or psychological disturbance before his abandonment. Precocious schizophrenia, infantile psychosis, autism, a number of technical terms have been applied to his position. Several psychiatrists and I have consulted favour in this approach. It provides both a motivation for abandonment and an explanation for his partial recovery under Itard's treatment. He had no survival skills and no defense mechanisms, so it would seem that likely most of those children would die pretty quickly and not reach adulthood. Marie-Angelique Leblanc, on the other hand, was different. She spent 10 years in the wilderness, but she had normal cognition and had been socialized before she escaped to live in the wilderness. She regressed, but had exceptional survival and wilderness skills. She was also with another kid, an African slave, who was later shot and killed. Wow, of course. Which probably helped her with her cognitive skills, even though she didn't use any articulated language. She was able to learn how to read and write and live in a society. Later on, she writes in this big French thing. I don't want to bother trying to pronounce what this book is. She's the only feral child who was able to be re-educated, and it's likely that she could have survived longer in the wild had she not been found. So I think it's very likely that most of them would have died shortly after they had not been found, and probably a lot did. Having a normal cognition and some socialization early on probably helped a lot. Yeah, man. I've like read things that human beings become, like, especially people who are not necessarily educated to survive in the wilderness, become so much more vulnerable when they are separated from other human beings, because the way that human beings have been able to climb to the top of the food chain so fast, and we're the ultimate predators, right? Like we're apex predators, I think. That's what we're called, because we have this ability to work on such a highly organized level, because we have things like communication, right? We are able to make tools and weapons to be able to and use things like misdirect, and to be able to like the First Nations people in many countries, but particularly in North America, killed bison and buffalo by simply just being able to chase after herds of them on their horses and run them off of cliffs. You know, like we are the most feared animals because we're able to work so well in groups together. But once we're on our own, we end up being helpless. Spoiler alert, but I don't know if y'all have seen the movie. Skip ahead a couple 30 seconds once I'm done talking about this. But if you guys haven't seen the movie The Revenant, there's a scene where Leonardo DiCaprio's character is in the woods and he gets attacked by this bear. And it's a very, very vivid experience when you're watching it, because they don't really hide anything. It's quite realistic. And they just show this bear just like whoosh, like just scrape the hell out of his back and dig its claws in. And you realize, like, once a human is alone, you know, we become so much more vulnerable and helpless to a bear. But then you think about 15 humans, you know, I'm sure we'd be able to come up with some way to kill it, right? And if you think about it, most animals are afraid of us. You know, if you go out into the wild and stuff, most animals tend to be afraid of humans, and it's no wonder why. I mean, it didn't take a whole lot of time for humans to be able to climb through this, you know, food chain throughout history, and now, you know, we're kind of at the very top. So I'm not surprised that animals would be scared of us, you know, because we're so violent. No, just kidding. We are, though, low key. This reply comes from Zenith Wears Flannel. There's a man in Spain called Marcos Rodriguez Pantoja or whatever, who was sold by his dad to work as a shepherd with a really old man that lived in a cave. Jeez, that guy really didn't like his son. He just couldn't stand his son. So, son, I got some interesting news for you. Oh, what is it, Dad? I sold you. So, technically, you're property. But yo, you wouldn't believe the deal that I got for you, though. I totally swindled this guy. Oh my God, I made him pay so much. He doesn't know how much you talk, and oh my God, how annoying you are. I can't stand you. No one can stand you. I really swindled him on this one, son. So give me a fist bump. One day the man left and never came back, and this 9-year-old child was left alone in Sierra Morena. He lived in nature without any human contact until he was 19 when a civil guard found him. After that, he faced abuse after abuse. Oh my God. He now works this guy's alive? He now works at a wolf center. He lived with wolves for a while in nature and says he wished nobody had found him because he hates living among humans. He was his happiest while in Sierra Morena. I think he's like 70 or 80 years old. There's a movie about him called Entre Lobos. Entre Lobos. I guess that's more, yes, but Entre Lobos would be like French, but Entre Lobos would be Spanish or something. And a book called He Jugado con Lobos or something like that. I'm just trying to sound out these things. But yeah, he was raised by wolves. Also, the book is amazing. If you know Spanish, or if you can find it in English, you should read it. My boy's hardened, bro. My boy's raised by wolves. He's ultimate alpha male. That's like the ultimate way the alpha male can brag. He's like, yeah, what about it? I was raised by wolves, literally. Top that. Well, bro, you can't read. You can't write. You're incredibly misogynistic, horribly racist. You bark at everyone who you don't know. So yeah, Chad, I'm sorry. There are bad things about being raised by wolves. All right, next one comes from Ty Huffman. Money laundering and how laundered money flows around the world. Most info is public from government agencies like the CIA and State Department. We have a reply from Diadoji70. Yeah, not a cop, but work in fintech and have done fraud and anti-money laundering detection, computer stuff. It's pretty depressing. It was definitely eye-opening when I was younger, realizing, number one, how much money laundering looks a lot like most tax evasion schemes. From a computer detection standpoint, they're almost the same thing when you consider, when all you can view is, say, financial transactions and records. Number two, how many prominent banks, politicians, and authorities will alert on models built using the information in number one? Number three, how little cops and the government fund investigations and detections of such activities. Usually our models were just so some institution could check a box, and the unspoken truth was just that the execs at large financial institutions didn't really put a lot of time or effort into our work, even when it was good. There is a reason the drug cartels operate with impunity, and the George Carlin bit was 100% right when he said the way to really fix a lot of the ills in the world is just to start forcing international bankers to see jail time when they knowingly operate with unsavory people. From Trump and the Clintons on down to maybe some of your local bankers where you live. A lot of them probably deserve jail time when you consider their financial statements in the light of how the world would probably look if we were all honest and law-abiding citizens. Yeah, man. Shout out to Breaking Bad. The money and Wolf of Wall Street and the money laundering game and the way that people like it is like most of this crime and stuff and the way that money is able to be is able to be transferred through some of the most, like, look at Jeffrey Epstein, man. This guy was like a billionaire, man, and dealing with all these important people. And because of his money and because of his impunity with the law, he was able to do things, terrible things, to very innocent people, because of his status and power that he had. And it's so frustrating to me because we are penalizing people who have who a lot of these issues affect on the ground level, in the most societal level, right? Like drug addicts and people who commit these small and petty crimes, right? We spend so much time policing these communities, and underprivileged communities and communities with so much poverty, and instead we let people who get away with some of the largest financial crimes, often banking institutions, are and these super influential institutions are the ones carrying out crimes in large countries. Like I just shout out to Moon on YouTube. I just watched. This isn't a bank, but I watched his YouTube. He's got a great YouTube video on the Shell Corporation. And a lot of their dealings in Nigeria and how they've completely deteriorated the Nigerian country and stole the land and resources away from the Nigerian people. And not only that, but polluted their waters. And they get away with so much because they're this American company. But since they work in a country and they're operating in a country where it's easy to sort, because they're not necessarily as I don't know how to describe it, but they are not as developed as a country as much as a country like Canada or the United States, and so they use that to their advantage because they know people won't know about the issue and care about it or understand what they're doing, and it's pretty terrible, man. It's pretty horrible. So, we're letting a lot of crime, a lot of very important crime, and people get away with it who are sometimes can be the most powerful people, man. Like the fact that a lot of politicians now, I know it's technically legal, but like politicians, can make money off of private companies, and then they claim they're not having insider trading, and it's like, yet the day before they had dinner with the CEO of Boeing. It's like, okay, I'm so sure you didn't get any insider information. You know what I mean? Like, it's despicable. We have a reply from Time Goal. Regarding number 1, isn't the point of money laundering to pay taxes on your dirty money, thus making it legit? Reply from, again, the Daydoji 70. Sometimes. The point is really to just get your money through an institution that you can plausibly say generated that money. Many times, that includes paying taxes. That being said, many tax evasion schemes are to get your money through institutions in some kind of finangled way to lower your overall tax burden. There's a lot of overlap. Very few cartels will put their money through institutions and schemes where they would have to pay short-term capital gains, for example. Although sometimes it happens, better to put it through a business that can take losses or modest profits, so the margin is better on the washing. Shout out to Walter White's car wash. But Jimmy originally had the idea for the nail salon, but I agree with Walter. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Car wash, used to work there, wants to buy it from his old boss because his old boss was not a very favorable man. So they got the car wash, and look at how much money they were cleaning out. So, shout out to Walter White. Next one comes from user Krabby. This should give you an hour or two. List of unusual deaths on Wikipedia. Reply from Travelog. Daniel John O'Brien, 31, committed suicide by jumping into one of the engines of a British Airways Boeing 747 at Piarco International Airport in Trinidad. He is said to have scaled an airport wall in nude, attacked 4 security guards, and stole their 4-wheel drive vehicle, drove the vehicle into the jet, then clambered out of the wreckage, smeared grease on his bleeding shoulder, and hurled himself into one of the plane's engines. Now that is some fucking commitment. Man, I don't want to tell you to kill yourself. I would never tell anyone to kill themselves. But or how to kill themselves. But my guy, there is a lot easier ways to kill yourself than to go through this trouble just to do a nosedive into a plane engine. It's parked. Like, even if you wanted to commit a terrorist attack, like, my guy, you're just killing yourself. It doesn't blow up the entire plane. Birds fly into those things. If they're flying, it can take the planes down. But when it's on the ground, like, my guy's just chopping himself up into some hamburger. Jeez. Next one comes from Double Bank Shot. Stephen Winfrey. I always get messed up with Stephen is spelled with a PH. Stephen Winfrey, 50, became trapped and asphyxiated when rabbiting near Doncaster, England, after his head became stuck down a rabbit hole. My friends, my advice to you is be careful around rabbit holes, says Double Bank Shot. When rabbiting, what does that even mean? What's rabbiting? Yeah, me and the boys are going rabbiting this weekend. So hype. I'm so hype. Rabbiting, bro. We're rabbiting so hard. Man, I'd like to come with you guys, but I don't even... What the hell is rabbiting? Bro. As if this guy doesn't know what rabbiting is, bro. If you know, you know, man. It's just one of those things, man. It's just one of those things. I'm sorry. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, then you don't know, man. I'm sorry to tell. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you that, but... You're rabbiting, bro. This guy doesn't know what rabbiting is. Shaking my head, man. You really need to do your research. Obviously, you're not well-read. If you don't know what rabbiting is, bro. We go rabbiting every weekend, man. Rabbiting is lit. It's so lit. You would want to be there, bro. You wish you were there. You don't have tickets, man. Tickets to the club. Next one, Caleb Ketter. Charondas was a Greek lawgiver from Sicily, Italy. According to Diodorus Siculus, he issued a law that anyone who brought weapons into the assembly must be put to death. One day he arrived at the assembly seeking help to defeat some brigands in the countryside, but with a knife still attached to his belt, in order to uphold his own law, he committed suicide. What an absolute Chad. My guy has some dedication. I love that. That's so funny. Holy crap. He's like, the law is the most sacred thing. Stabs and kills himself. So his friends are like, he sees the knife on himself, and they're like, everyone's like, yo, looking at him. My guy, like, you might want to look at your waistband, bro. Why? What's going on? What's wrong with my weight? Guys, no. Come on. That was a joke. I was kidding. You know I was kidding. You knew I was kidding. Everyone's just like slowly gathering around him in a circle. Come on, guys. We know we're all friends here. We've known each other so long. Come on. You wouldn't want this. You know what you have to do. Oh, God. For the love of the law. Dies. Next one. From Urge Kaya High. John Hutchinson, 21, drove home drunk with his friend Francis Brome, 23, who was hanging out in the passenger window while vomiting due to car sickness. Hutchinson drove off the road and sideswiped a telephone pole wire, decapitating Brome. He continued the final 12 miles, 19 kilometers. Thank you very much, Urge, for adding the metric system in there for your Canadians. To his Atlanta, Georgia, U.S. home, parked in the driveway and went to bed. A neighbor found Brom's headless body in the truck the next morning. Well, that reminds me of the scene from Hereditary. I've never seen that movie, but that guy was just, man, sometimes it's too much. You got, like, too much in a day, man. Too much in a day. Sometimes you got to be like, I'll deal with this tomorrow. It's one of those things, man. You just have to cut him some slack, man. Cut him some slack. He's just got to He's got to deal with it later, man. Some of these problems are too immediate to deal with, man. Just relax. Let him live his life, dude. He was just probably really tired, man. Probably just like driving. Friend's head gets cut off. He's like, "Oh shit. Ha. That's crazy." Anyways, cut him some slack, folks. This guy was just tired, man. He was drunk. All right? Cut him some slack. He was literally wasted. Guys, when was the last time you did something stupid when you were drunk? Sometimes his defense. Judge, come on. When was the last time you got wasted, blasted out of your mind, and you did something stupid? Come on. Last weekend, I know it, man. You talked to that girl. You said something you shouldn't have. Judge, I know that's you. What's his name here? Mr. Hutcherson, you do realize you decapitated your friend. He has no head. His head is literally gone from his body. It ceases to exist. And you just kept driving? Man, screw you, man. I was busy, man. I was wasted, bro. I probably was... Everyone says you should be focusing on the road when you drive. I couldn't attend to the situation, all right? I was trying to be a good driver. I didn't want to get demerits on my license. Come on, man. Let's be a realistic judge. What's better, me attending to my decapitated friend or me following the rules of the road? Now you see where my dedication and loyalty lies, Judge. All right, friends. Let's see if I can read off maybe one more one. Okay. Last one comes from Sealver. The wiki for the timeline of far future events. If you want to feel insignificant and learn some shit, check this out. Reply from Ebobuman. I can't believe you've done this. Volcanoes scare me, and now I'm going to be anxious as hell for the next 17,000 years. It's like, I've watched, there's like YouTube videos for that. It's really, they're good. Where it's like 1.5 billion years from now, the Earth will be a molten rock, not being able to sustain any life at all, ever. The volcano ones are the scariest, though, because the volcanoes, like, isn't there volcanoes on the Earth that could literally just explode at any time, like the Yellowstone one or something? I don't know how much truth there is to that. Maybe I'm spreading misinformation. I don't want to be spreading misinformation on my podcast, guys, but isn't there, like, in the Yellowstone volcano can just like erupt? Like, wouldn't that suck, man? That would just, I'd be like, man, all this just to get killed by some fucking rocks, man? Some molten lava from the inside of the Earth? Like, bruh. So anticlimactic. But yo, part of me also kind of wishes, like, I'd rather humans die from like a natural disaster, like our species gets wiped out by like an asteroid or a volcano, rather than us killing ourselves. Because you can only prevent so much, right? Especially like when I had a car when I was in high school get hit by a tree, and the insurance company called it an act of God. You know what I mean? Like, I give much more sympathy to our cause if we were all killed by an act of God, something we couldn't control, something that's out of our ability to control, rather than us just nuking each other and blowing up the entire planet. You know? So, let's hope that doesn't happen. Okay. All right. That's going to be the end of this episode for today. So I want to thank y'all so much again for tuning in to Reddit Asks Us, where we read and react to comments from r/AskReddit. I am your host, Luke Dick. Remember, please comment under my YouTube channel if you want your takes from this episode read out on the next week's episode. Because I'm more than happy to read out what everyone else has to say. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And remember, if you're watching or listening on YouTube, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else you get your podcasts, please leave us that juicy, juicy rating. And also, maybe a flattering review if you feel so inclined. Thank you all so much, and I will see y'all next week. Peace out.